Hi guys, Irina here and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. In today's camera test, let's compare 3 consecutive iPhone models starting from 2019, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13. And in this camera comparison, we'll take a look at some random daylight photos, night shots, portraits, selfies, and so much more. And at the end of this video, I'll test the side-by-side video quality and stabilization. Let's quickly go over the camera specs of these phones, and here you wouldn't see much of a difference. All of these phones have dual 12-megapixel cameras and the same apertures except for the main camera on the iPhone 11, which has a slightly smaller aperture of 1.8. It's important to note that the iPhone 13 has the biggest sensor on its main camera, but let's not forget that the hardware is not the only important aspect of producing great photos. So let's see how it all translates to the real-world photos, and as usual, let's start with the portrait mode. It's important to note that we don't have telephoto cameras on these phones, so all of these iPhones use their main cameras for taking portraits. And right away, I'll say that we get very similar portraits from these phones, but the thing that catches my eye is that my face is better exposed in the photo from the iPhone 13. When it comes to separation from the background, all of these phones sometimes have some flaws in their portraits, and we see that even on the new iPhone 13. And a few more photos taken in the portrait mode for you guys. Next, let's take a look at some random daylight photos. And if you ask me, I think there is a very little difference between these photos, especially when it comes to the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13. Sometimes the photos from the iPhone 11 look a bit less vibrant, but other than that, all of these phones produce amazing shots. Moving on to the ultra-wide photos. All of these iPhones have a 120-degree field of view on their ultra-wide cameras, so they're equal in terms of how much you could fit into the frame. I've noticed that the ultra-wide photos from the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 sometimes appear slightly more vibrant and crisp, but that difference is not dramatic. However, the difference becomes more dramatic when it gets darker, and as you can see, the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 produce slightly brighter and, most importantly, sharper looking photos. Yes, unfortunately, we still get some noise here at the corners of the photos, and it's more noticeable on the shots from the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13, but still, overall, these photos look sharper than the one from the iPhone 11. And in the next 3 photos, we have pretty much the same situation in terms of exposure and sharpness. By the way, this is not the first time when I noticed that the iPhone 12 is the one that produces the brightest photo between these 3 and not the new iPhone 13, and that's interesting. We'll talk about the night ultra-wide photos later in this video, but now let's talk about zoomed photos. Neither of these phones have a telephoto camera, so these iPhones have to rely on the digital zoom. The maximum zoom for these iPhones is 5 times, and I don't think we have a winner here, since all of these phones produce pretty much the same photos in terms of how sharp they are. And I'll be honest with you guys, these are not the best results, since an iPhone with a telephoto camera would be able to produce a much sharper photo here, especially when it comes to 3 times or greater zoom. Now let's switch to the front cameras of these phones. We have 12-megapixel cameras with apertures of 2.2 on all of these iPhones. And let's take a look at some selfies. To me, they look pretty much the same when it comes to how sharp they are, but speaking of colors, I would say the iPhone 11 produces the most natural and real-looking colors, while the iPhone 12 tends to produce warmer-looking selfies when compared to the other two. And here, the iPhone 13 has an advantage of having this photographic styles feature that lets you change the tone and warmth, preserving your skin tone. Of course, your skin tone slightly changes as well to match the overall photo, but it's not like with the filters where you could get unexpected results when it comes to your skin tone. Let's look at some daylight selfie videos. First of all, the stabilization is amazing on all of these front cameras. I think the sky looks the best in the video from the iPhone 13, while at times it looks blown out in the video from the iPhone 11. However, speaking of the overall colors, I think the iPhone 11 is once again the best in terms of showing the real colors of my skin and my hair. And let's take a look at some night selfie videos and you can judge them for yourself. Now let's talk about the photos taken in very low light. All of these phones have the night mode on their main cameras, and while these shots could be slightly different in terms of exposure and colors, they look pretty much the same to me when it comes to how sharp they are. Speaking of the night mode on the ultra-wide camera, the iPhone 11 is the only phone that doesn't have it. So you would get much better results with the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13. As you probably already know, guys, the night mode on an iPhone is automatic, and when I was doing this camera test, I noticed that oftentimes whenever the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12 enabled the night mode, the iPhone 13 did not. Probably because of a larger sensor on the main camera. And as you can see, I still got pretty good night shots on the iPhone 13, but I had the same situation when I was taking nighttime ultra-wide photos, and as you can see, some photos turn out to be pretty good, like this. But some photos are not so good because the iPhone 13 chose not to enable the night mode on its ultra-wide camera. And I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, well, it's fine, I could still manually enable it and take a photo. But on the other hand, I've always loved that the night mode is automatic and I don't have to think about it. And now it feels like I can't really rely on the iPhone 13 when it comes to taking night photos. So maybe it will be fixed with the updates, maybe it won't, we'll see. Next, let's talk about videos and let's start with a stabilization test. The iPhone 13 is the only phone between these three that has the sensor shift optical image stabilization, and while all of these phones have a really good video stabilization, I would say it's pretty noticeable that the video from the iPhone 13 is the smoothest. A few daylight videos for you guys, and you can judge them for yourself. and a few night videos for you guys. That's all for this video, guys. I hope this camera comparison was helpful for you, and maybe it will be slightly easier for you to decide which phone to get. I know that sometimes it's not that easy. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.